Hi, I'm glad you're here. This is Sharon from Meeedly, the world's best business-to-business meeting scheduling tool. I will be your host, guiding you through a series of advanced programming concepts simplified for easy learning and practical use. Let's jump right into it. This video is a part of a series where we explore React.js from the ground up. If you're a software engineer joining Meeedly, this video series will introduce you to the core development practices we follow. You'll learn how to structure and organize your React.js project from the ground up, apply consistent naming conventions, and use real-life React functions by building a counter app, covering everything from React fundamentals to advanced API integrations. In this video, we will continue going through the React project. From the previous video, we have covered the project folder structure of the whole project. Now we will actually be going into those files and starting to write some code. Let's first begin with the routing structure of our pages and connecting them all together. First, we will be going to the view folder. All the folders below contain a JavaScript file that will be corresponding to their own pages. For now, we will be simply creating a simple function for each of them so that there will be something loaded when we go to those pages. For the majority of the code in this project, I will be mainly showing you the code and explaining what it does. It will be up to you to put your own creative freedom when it comes to the CSS and writing out the code yourself. We can first take a look inside the about.js file. In this file, we can see a simple function called about. Inside, we will be returning an h1 tag, or also known as a header1 tag, with the text about page. We will also be returning a p tag, also known as a paragraph tag, with the text, "This is the about page." Then we will be exporting it. This structure is followed for the rest of the other JavaScript files. They will be demonstrated below. Now before we move on to the main routing, we will need to install a few more packages. There will be 3 main packages that we will be downloading. Go to your terminal and type in the following: npm i bootstrap, npm i bootstrap icons, and finally npm i react router DOM. Bootstrap is a front-end framework that is very useful for designing responsive web apps. It is great for streamlining the web dev process because it has a collection of pre-designed components and tools. React Router DOM is a library for routing in React applications. It is mainly used for dynamically updating views, changing the URL in the browser, and maintaining a single-page app, which is called the SPA. Now we will be going to the routes folder into the main route.js. This is the main file where routes are declared and components are mapped to paths. First, let's look and start with the imports at the top. From React Router DOM, we will be importing tools to help set up the navigation in our app. We will also be importing the 4 main JavaScript files that we will be altering to change what we see on those pages. Then we have our main route function, which is our main React component that will be holding all of our routing logic. Inside, we can see routes and route. Routes is mainly used as a container for all routes, while route defines a path and what components to show. In our code, we can see a nested routing example. For example, we first create route for the path about, which is right here. Then, inside the route, but also every other route, we see a nested route block. This nested route block makes it so that anything with the /about shows the about page, and anything invalid will show a error 404 page. The reason why we have it set up like this is to keep the routing clean and scalable, have error handling, and also prepare for future subroutes if we ever need them under other sections. This is how the code looks overall. Now that we have finished setting up our basic page and our routing structure, we will now be returning to the app.js. App.js is usually the root component of a React app. An easy way to think about this is that it's the first place that React looks to build the UI and the starting point of the entire app. If you look at the imports, we import the components that we have just made so that it will display the different pages based on the URL. We also imported Bootstrap styles and icons globally so that all the components in our app can use them. Finally, we also imported the different resolution CSS. This isn't used too much in this application, but will be useful to remember this when you are trying to make an app responsive on different resolutions. These files have already been populated, so let's go through them really quickly. This is the main.css, the desktop.css, the tablet.css, and then finally the mobile.css. Now coming back to the app.js, we'll be looking at our app component where we return our main route. This is because we want main route to control what is being displayed to the screen. And this is what we have set up previously. Then finally, we export the default app, which makes it available for index.js, which is where React actually renders it to the page. With all this done, your routing should be complete, and now all your pages have been created. Now that we have finished setting up our basic page and our routing structure, we will now be returning to the app.js. App.js is usually the root component of a React app. An easy way to think about this is that it's the first place that React looks to build the UI and the starting point of the entire app. If you look at the imports, we import the components that we have just made so that it will display the different pages based on the URL. We also imported Bootstrap styles and icons globally so that all the components in our app can use them. Finally, we also imported the different resolution CSS. This isn't used too much in this application, but will be useful to remember this when you are trying to make an app responsive on different resolutions. These files have already been populated, so let's go through them really quickly. This is the main.css, the desktop.css, the tablet.css, and then finally the mobile.css. Now coming back to the app.js, we'll be looking at our app component where we return our main route. This is because we want main route to control what is being displayed to the screen. And this is what we have set up previously. Then finally, we export the default app, which makes it available for index.js, which is where React actually renders it to the page. With all this done, your routing should be complete, and now all your pages have been created. If our main route has been set up correctly, and you have saved your app.js, this is how your React app should look. Currently, it displays the home page because that is what our default is set to. If we want to look at the other pages, we just have to simply go to the URL and go find them. If we want to look at the About page, we simply go to the URL and type /about. This is because this is how our route was set up, and now it shows our About page. If we want to go look at our other pages, we can go to /settings, and the settings page will show up. And finally, our last page was our error 4041. And it pops up right there. So now this is how you know that all your pages are existing. Now that we know that our pages actually exist, and that we have defined our routing structure, let's now work towards creating a Navbar component which will help us easily move between each of our pages. First, let's go into our components folder and into our navigation.js. Inside here, we will see a few imports. We see our link from our React router DOM. We imported a Meeedly logo, which you will later see in the navbar. This Meeedly logo is actually imported from our assets folder. And from what we know before, most of our logos, if they're PNGs, are usually going to be in this folder. Then we also imported our CSS file. Now, if we actually look at the navigation component, it is rendering link components which are from the React router DOM that we just discussed. These links point to different routes, as you can see from the screen. I will quickly scroll through the CSS styling now that I have designed for our navbar button. Feel free to use the same styling or take this time to use your creative freedom to make it how you would like it to look. Our styling will go in our styles filter, components, navigation, and in here. So this is how the navigation is currently being styled. After you save whatever is in your navigation component and also your CSS, we will now be going to each of the pages to import our navigation bar. First, we'll go to View, and we're going to go to our three main pages. Let's start with the about.js first. To import it, we're going to go to the top, and we're going to import the actual component called navigation. And then we're going to go to where it actually is in the folder structure. So it's going to be from components, navigation, and then navigation. Now you have imported it, and now let's add it to the actual function. So we're going to put in navigation, and that should be good. Now we also want to do this for the other two pages. So let's just go in here and just copy and paste them in. Make sure you save all three, and once we do, we can go back to our React app and see how it looks. Now, when you look at a React app, there should now be a navbar at the top. At the left, we can see the Meeedly icon that we decided to import and that you can find on our website. On our right, we can see the three buttons which will allow you to go between all of our pages. Since we are currently on our home page, clicking it does not do anything. But if we go to the About and click that, we go and see our About page. Settings takes us to the Settings page. And if we click back to our home, we start off with where we were. If you remember, we actually did not import this navigation bar to our error 404 page. So, if you go to the URL and actually go and look up the page, you'll see that there actually is no navigation bar here. So coming back, if this has all been successful and you also see this page, you have successfully created your first component. Now that we have successfully created our navigation bar and seen it imported to our pages, we are also going to be making a footer for our app. So we're going to go to footer.js, and the main thing we want to highlight is actually what's in the p tag. Inside this piece tag, you can see the ampersand copy right here. And this is an HTML entry that enters and renders the copyright symbol. Then we have new date and get full year. New date gets the current date and get full year extracts the current year. We will follow the same idea where we write our code in our JS file specifically for whatever component we have, and then import it to each of our pages. Let's also take a quick look at our CSS. So if you remember, it will be located in Style, Components, Footer, and then in here. So this is the footer CSS. Make sure you have this all, and you can feel free to use your own creative freedom for such. But then after, we will be importing all of this similarly to what we did to our navigation bar for each of our pages. So, like before, we're just going to import footer from, and then we're going to do the same file order. Now that we have imported it, we're actually going to add it to our return. So since we want our footer at the bottom, we're actually going to import it below everything else. And now we're going to do the same thing, but for every other page that we have. Make sure you save your changes, and your React app should now look like the following. So now we see that our footer has been successfully imported into our home, our about, and also our settings page. We see it right here, and later as we start to populate and fix our CSS for each of these pages, our navbar will slowly go down and be here. And that's all for this video. To recap what we have done in this video, we set up the routing structure and pages that we will be using for this React app. We have also learned how to create and implement components through our navigation bar and our footer component. In the following videos, we will continue to work on populating our home and about page. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.